You turn your back for exactly 1 millisecond. When you look back, your child, clutching your ultimate survival asset, is gone, swallowed whole by the ruthless neon void of Times Square. Discover the agonizing psychological nightmare triggered when the illusion of absolute control violently shatters. Have you ever experienced the exact millisecond your reality shatters? You are standing in the middle of a suffocatingly crowded mall. You turn your back for exactly 1 second. You turn back, and your child has completely vanished from your line of sight, evaporated into thin air. That feeling isn't just fear, it is a violent physical assault. The blood brutally rushes to your brain. Your heart violently hammers against your ribs like it wants to break free, and the entire world around you abruptly collapses into a suffocating, deafening silence. Today, we are not just here to casually dissect a few basic English survival phrases. We are going to tear into a classic case study of behavioral psychology, the dark art of risk management in parenting, and a profoundly haunting life lesson buried deep within the chaotic, unforgiving concrete jungle of New York City. At NYC Review 01 warmly welcomes you to this psychological journey. If you find yourself captivated by this deep dive into the human psyche, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Your subscription is the relentless fuel that drives us to decode more gripping, untold stories like this one. The backdrop for this impending disaster is New York, the absolute cradle of ruthless capitalism. This is a place where the pulse of life beats so aggressively fast that if you slow down for even half a step, you are destined to be crushed under the heels of 10,000 passing strangers. Picture our family of 4, standing dead center in Times Square. It is a mesmerizing sanctuary of blinding neon lights, but make no mistake, it is also a perfectly designed trap, hungry to swallow anyone who dares to drop their guard. In this brutally unforgiving environment, every parent talks a big game about safety. They establish their golden rules, highly specific standard operating procedures designed to keep disaster at bay. You need to write these survival commands down right now, because they apply to every ruthless game in life. First, stay close. This doesn't mean casually walking nearby. It means gluing yourself to the formation. Second, wait here. A definitive, uncompromising geographical directive. Do not shift a single millimeter. Third, do not go anywhere. The ultimate kill switch, an absolute prohibition meant to freeze all spontaneous human behavior. In theory, this protocol is absolute perfection. But what about reality? Every system has a fatal blind spot, and that flaw is always, without fail, human nature. The spark that ignited this entire terrifying chain of events was seemingly innocent. A father casually handing a hotel room keycard to his young son, Peter, for safekeeping. From a pure risk management perspective, this was a catastrophic decentralization of power. You do not hand over your ultimate survival asset to an unqualified, unpredictable operative in the middle of a highly volatile environment. The exact moment that plastic card transferred hands, anyone who understands the brutal unpredictability of life felt a cold, sickening chill crawl down their spine. A profound disaster was silently brewing, and the agonizing price this family was about to pay would leave them absolutely paralyzed with terror. That sickening chill materialized into a terrifying reality the moment the father turned around to find nothing but a sea of indifferent strangers where his young son had just stood. It was an absence that defied logic. 1 second, Peter was right there, his small fingers wrapping around that little plastic rectangle. The next second, the brutal current of the New York crowd had simply swallowed him whole. This is the precise moment when the illusion of parental control shatters into a million jagged pieces. The father's mind immediately short-circuited. The meticulous standard operating procedures, the geographic directives, the definitive commands to stay close, were instantly rendered utterly useless, mocked by the relentless surge of pedestrians bumping into his shoulders. Panic is not a slow burn, it is a flash fire. The mother's breath hitched, a guttural sound of pure primal terror escaping her throat as her eyes frantically scanned the shifting mosaic of coats, hats, and glowing billboards. What makes this scenario exponentially worse is the specific environment. Times Square does not care about your missing child. It does not pause its relentless commercial machinery to accommodate your personal tragedy. The blinding neon lights, which just moments ago felt like a mesmerizing spectacle, suddenly transformed into glaring, hostile spotlights mocking their negligence. And then, the secondary realization hit them with the force of a freight train. Peter had the keycard. The ultimate survival asset, their only ticket back to the quiet sanctuary of their hotel room, was wandering somewhere in the labyrinth of the city in the hands of a distracted child. They were not just missing a son. They were entirely exposed, locked out of their refuge, and completely at the mercy of the concrete jungle. The psychological weight of that fatal decentralization of power crashed down upon them, leaving them breathless and paralyzed in the epicenter of the loudest city on earth. Plunged headfirst into this urban nightmare, the parents were no longer rational adults executing a vacation itinerary. They were feral creatures operating purely on the frantic, blinding adrenaline of survival. They began to move, their bodies pushing aggressively against the relentless tide of tourists and hustlers. Peter, the father, roared the name, but the sound was instantly devoured by the cacophony of blaring taxi horns, street performers, and the murmurs of 100,000 strangers. It is a unique kind of psychological torture to scream at the top of your lungs and realize you are entirely muted by your surroundings. The mother began grabbing the shoulders of passing strangers, her face a portrait of unadulterated agony, desperately describing a little boy holding a plastic keycard. Most pedestrians simply sidestepped her, their eyes glazed over with that signature New York apathy, annoyed at the sudden interruption to their rapid transit. Time began to warp, stretching every passing second into an eternity of horrifying possibilities. In the mind of a panicked parent, logic evaporates, instantly replaced by a vivid, terrifying reel of worst-case scenarios. Was he snatched? Did he wander off into the dark, labyrinthine subway tunnels below? The immense scale of the city felt like a physical weight crushing their chests. Every alleyway looked like a dark mouth. Every dense cluster of people looked like a barrier hiding their bleeding hearts. This search was not just a physical frantic dash across the pavement. It was a devastating confrontation with their own arrogance. They had believed their rules were enough. They had believed that a simple command like "wait here" held enough authority to overpower the intoxicating, chaotic allure of Times Square. As they scrambled past massive digital screens broadcasting smiling faces, the irony was sickening. They were navigating the belly of the beast, fully aware that their perfect theoretical system had spectacularly failed the ultimate stress test of human unpredictability. Just as the crushing weight of despair threatened to permanently break their spirits and bring them to their knees, a tiny, familiar silhouette materialized near the edge of a glittering, oversized Broadway marquee. There he was, Peter. He was standing near a glowing pretzel stand, completely mesmerized by a street drummer pounding on plastic buckets, entirely oblivious to the apocalyptic psychological warfare his parents had just endured. And there, clutched tightly in his small, innocent hand, was the hotel room keycard. The physical reaction to spotting a lost child is violently overwhelming. It is not just relief. It is a painful, exhausting crash of adrenaline leaving the body all at once. The father shoved past a group of tourists, dropping entirely to his knees on the filthy concrete the moment he reached the boy, wrapping his arms around the tiny frame as if trying to physically absorb the child back into his own body. The mother collapsed against them, sobbing uncontrollably, her tears soaking into Peter's jacket. The boy simply looked up, confused by the sudden onslaught of intense emotion, holding up the plastic card as if presenting a hard-won prize. This is the profound paradox of the parental experience. In the child's mind, absolutely nothing had happened. He had taken 5 steps to the left to watch a drum show. But in the parents' minds, they had just fought a brutal war against the city of New York and barely survived. The anger, the profound relief, the lingering terror, they all collided in a chaotic emotional cocktail that left the adults physically shaking. The ultimate survival asset was secure, the formation was reunited, but the invisible, protective bubble they thought they had built around their family was irrevocably shattered. They had found their son, but they had definitively lost the naive illusion that they were ever truly in control. The suffocating grip on their chests finally loosened as they retreated from the chaotic streets, But the psychological scars etched into their minds during those excruciating minutes would never truly fade. Back in the quiet, sterile sanctuary of their hotel room, the silence was deafening. The father took the plastic keycard, that tiny, insignificant piece of plastic that had been the catalyst for their unraveling, and placed it gently on the nightstand. It sat there as a silent, terrifying monument to their fatal oversight. This haunting ordeal serves as a masterclass in the brutal reality of risk management and human nature. You can draft the most impeccable standard operating procedures. You can shout the most definitive survival commands. But the human element will always remain the wild card. Children are entirely driven by curiosity and impulse, completely immune to the invisible boundaries set by anxious adults. By delegating a critical survival asset to an unqualified operative, the parents had unknowingly orchestrated their own descent into hell. The concrete jungle of New York City does not offer second chances. It merely exposes your vulnerabilities with ruthless efficiency. It teaches us that true safety is never a guarantee. It is merely an illusion we desperately cling to so we can sleep at night. As parents, as human beings navigating this relentlessly chaotic world, we must understand that vigilance cannot be outsourced and power should never be carelessly decentralized in hostile territory. Thank you for walking through this dark, psychological corridor with that Nguyen Vuong Review 01. If this harrowing dive into the fragility of human control resonated with you, do not forget to subscribe and engage with the channel. We will continue to tear down the facade of everyday life to expose the gripping, untold realities hidden just beneath the surface. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and never let go of the key. The harrowing experience of losing a child in the relentless vortex of Times Square is far more than just a terrifying parental anecdote. It is a profound metaphor for the fragility of human control. In the span of just a few agonizing minutes, a meticulously planned family vacation devolved into a primal fight for survival, exposing the devastating flaw in their logic, delegating a critical asset to the most unpredictable element of their unit. The parents learned the hard way that theoretical safety protocols instantly dissolve the moment they clash with raw human impulse in a deeply apathetic, chaotic environment. The blinding neon lights and indifferent crowds served as a brutal stress test that their standard operating procedures spectacularly failed. While the physical reunion brought an overwhelming, tear-soaked wave of relief, the psychological aftermath left permanent scars. They successfully retrieved their child and their keycard, but they ultimately left behind the comforting, naive illusion that they could ever fully tame the unpredictable nature of life. This ordeal strips away the facade of total security, reminding us that no matter how tightly we grip the steering wheel, we are always operating on the edge of chaos. The hotel room keycard, resting silently on the nightstand, is forever transformed from a mundane piece of plastic into a stark symbol of vulnerability, a lingering reminder that the concrete jungle yields to no one, and our grip on reality is only as secure as our weakest link. The ultimate takeaway from this psychological ordeal is the inherent danger of the illusion of control. We often convince ourselves that rigid rules, detailed plans, and authoritative verbal commands are enough to insulate us from the chaos of the outside world. However, delegating critical responsibilities, whether it is a literal hotel keycard, your financial security, or your personal well-being, to an unqualified, untested, or unpredictable element is a direct invitation for disaster. True security is an active state of being, not a passive set of rules. In your everyday life, you must actively identify your own keycards, the crucial assets, core responsibilities, or critical fail-safes that keep your personal and professional life stable. Never outsource the ultimate responsibility for these vital elements. Whether you are managing a high-stakes project at work, securing your family's financial future, or simply navigating a crowded public space, you must maintain direct control over your most essential assets. Build resilient contingencies that account for human error, distraction, and irrationality, rather than relying on perfect compliance. Acknowledge that the world is inherently chaotic. True resilience comes from remaining intensely adaptable, maintaining strict vigilance over your critical assets, and never blindly trusting a theoretical plan. Have you ever experienced a sudden, terrifying moment where a carefully made plan completely fell apart? And how did you handle the chaos? Please share your story and perspective in the comment section below so our community can read and learn from your real-world experiences. If you found this deep dive into the psychology of human control valuable, please subscribe to the channel. Your support directly gives us the motivation to keep producing high-quality content and uncovering the intense, untold realities hidden just beneath everyday life.